Well, they're applauding back here. If you'd applaud, that'd make me feel good. How y'all doing today? So welcome to this year's version of the IdeaFestival. This is a terrific opportunity, I think, to spark innovation, spark thoughts in the minds of you in the audience about things that might be the next frontier, the next things that we could engage in. Now, a couple of months ago, Josh and Dr. Roberts came to see me in my office and to suggest or to ask if I'd be interested in speaking at this event. Well, I have a tremendous opportunity in the work that I do, both for Western Kentucky University and for the Kentucky Automotive Industry Association, to travel the state and really to travel the nation and talk on behalf of the automotive industry. And I say that I've got the opportunity, but that opportunity was born of an interesting set of circumstances. About a year ago, I retired from the Corvette assembly plant. I was a plant manager of the Corvette assembly plant. I'd been there for about 4 or 5 years. I've been at General Motors for 34 years. Now, you're probably sitting there saying, what kind of idiot would retire from the coolest job on the planet? Well, the fact was that General Motors had an idea for me that didn't include me being a Bowling Green any longer, that the Bowling Green plant had been my 13th location, and I really didn't want a 14th. And so after 34 years, I decided to hang it up with General Motors and move on to whatever the next chapter was. And that next chapter has been very interesting because shortly after I retired, I got a phone call from a guy in the state government who said to me, he was congratulating me as a guy that I've known for a long time. He's congratulating me on my retirement. And he said, now what are you going to do, Dave? And I said, I know I'm done working for GM, but I also know I'm not done working. And he said, well, I've got this idea. And he began to talk to me about the possibility of this association that we've now formed called the Kentucky Automotive Industry Association. You see, many people don't realize how big the automotive industry is to the state of Kentucky. I'm going to talk a lot more about that as I go through my comments here today. At the same time, I've been talking to Western Kentucky University. It's always been my dream to work for WKU, and now I get to do that as well as an associate vice president for advanced manufacturing. I work out at the Center for Research and Development, working on connecting industry with the university's assets. So I spend all of my time working in the automotive industry now. After 34 years of building engines, transmissions, and cars all over the planet, I get to stay right here in Kentucky and focus on why we are such a great place for automotive. So my purpose today, then, is to talk to you for a few minutes about the Kentucky Automotive Industry Association, just a quick couple of comments on that as to why we exist, but then frame up how big the automotive industry here is in Kentucky, and then what it looks like globally. And the reason I want to share that with you today is to get you to think in the dimension of the automotive industry is no longer the Rust Belt picture of middle America that many people grew up thinking it was. The automotive industry is absolutely out at the leading edge of technology in many ways. I think you don't have to go very far or pick up many newspapers or surf the net very long before you find articles where the automotive industry is moving the bar on technology. Now, as I mentioned, we formed this Kentucky Automotive Industry Association just last year, and really the purpose was to recognize the importance that the automotive industry has in the state of Kentucky. We really have 4 objectives. You can see them up here. The first one was branding. Many people don't understand Kentucky is the 3rd largest state in the country with respect to automotive production. You know, we've got 4 major assembly plants, 3 OEMs. We've got 2 Ford plants in Louisville. We've got the huge Toyota complex in Georgetown. And, of course, we've got Corvette right here in Bowling Green. So we produce more cars than every other state in the union except for Michigan and Ohio. So we got to brand the industry. People don't know that. People don't understand that. The second thing we wanted to talk about, or wanted the industry to, or the association to do, was to advocate on behalf of the industry. You know, we didn't have a common voice either throughout the state, in the legislature, in the General Assembly, or other venues where we needed to really stand up and be counted as an industry, and now that's really what I get to do. The third thing was leadership. You know, we're a leading industry in the state of Kentucky. We did not have that role. We weren't acting in a responsible way with respect to that role, and now we're standing up and trying to be leaders of the industry, leaders for the industry within the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The final thing, and the thing that I spend most of my time on, is this subject of workforce development. It's the idea of creating workforce channels, venues for people to grow into automotive careers, because there truly are a huge number of opportunities in the automotive industry. Now, for purposes of today's discussion, those opportunities include a huge amount of opportunities in innovation and great ideas in technology and things that we haven't even thought of yet that could be a part of the industry. Let me talk to you a little bit about the state of Kentucky's automotive industry. As I said, we're the third largest state, but did you realize that of the 120 counties in the state of Kentucky, 80 of them have an automotive manufacturing complex located in them? 80 out of 120 counties. Now, so the counties in blue here are the ones that have automotive facilities in them. If I overlaid the interstate highway system and the parkway system on this map, you would see really why they're located where they are. But we have a huge footprint throughout the Commonwealth. In fact, we are the #1 exporter, well, actually the second behind aeronautics, but it's kind of a lump together in transportation. We exported more than $5 billion worth of Kentucky-made products in 2014. I mentioned that we're the third largest state with respect to automotive production. We're actually first in a per capita, meaning if you took our automotive production and spread it over our population, we're the #1 state in the country with respect to automotive production. And again, not many people know that. In Kentucky, we talk a lot about bourbon and horses, and those are big industries, but quite frankly, the automotive industry is bigger than bourbon. And so we actually contribute over $4.5 billion to the state GDP every year. I mentioned that of those 80 counties in the state that have automotive complexes within them, automotive manufacturing sites, of that represents 460 different automotive businesses employing over 85,000 people throughout the Commonwealth. The point is, of course, then, that our footprint in the Commonwealth is pretty substantial, and the opportunities for growth through technology, through innovation, through expansion, through all those other kinds of opportunities are very great right here in Kentucky. Now, as we talk about that opportunity for growth and for innovation and new technology, we in the state, and certainly here in South Central Kentucky, work very hard in this realm of what we call economic development. The idea of creating an environment that's conducive to businesses to do business in the region that we represent. In the state of Kentucky, since 2010, we've announced 335 new locations and expansions throughout the Commonwealth related to automotive. That means that represents $4.5 billion worth of investment in those facilities and over 20,000 new jobs. Now, some of those are still in the process of being realized. We're building a new joint venture out here at the Trans Park right here in Bowling Green for the aluminum companies. But there's a lot of those kinds of examples where those are announced, committed expansion or growth projects that will impact the economy of Kentucky. We talk about the other opportunities, the things that we exist to do, and as we begin to think about our opportunities in innovation, the things that we really need to do to ensure the future success of the automotive industry in the state of Kentucky is continue this branding issue, to continue to strengthen our brand globally so that people around the world understand that Kentucky is a good place to do business, to create and retain these high-quality automotive jobs, certainly to attract new capital investment like I just spoke of, and then to develop a world-class workforce. As I said, I spent a lot of my time on this notion of workforce and want to continue to do that to ensure we're filling the pipelines. Let me talk for a minute then. Okay, so it ought to be clear that the automotive industry in the state of Kentucky is significant, and the opportunities for growth in the industry are great. The reality is that the opportunities to innovate and to create technology in those things is great as well. If you look at global light vehicle production, I'm not going to go through the numbers, but it's clear that the growth curve of the global vehicle production is significant. The world is going to continue to consume more and more vehicles every year, and the fact is that we are very well poised here to take advantage of that. Now, if we look at that on a North America basis, the North American, obviously you can see the recession year in 2009, but our growth has been adequate as we've returned to sort of normal levels, 17.5 million to 18 million vehicles. But it's a very different 17.5 million vehicles. If you look back to 2006, in North America, the 17.5 million units that we built we're about 30% globally sourced, or 30% a global vehicle. Today, that's about 18%. The really significant thing that's happening is the epicenter of the automotive industry is moving south. So back in 2006, only 25% of the vehicles built in North America were built south of Ohio. Now, as of 2016, well over 50% will be built south of Ohio into the southeastern United States and into Mexico. Back in 2006, as I said, 20% was deemed global, mostly Japanese OEMs that were building here in the U.S., and now that's accelerated out to 62% are global players in the automotive industry. No longer is the automotive industry in North America a domestic three issue. It's truly a global opportunity. Talk about design. When you think about innovation and others, 72% of the design back in 2006 was done right here in North America. Now only 30% of that's done here. And that's really just a function of the increase in volume of offshore manufacturers doing business right here in the United States. And finally, OEM-wise, the top 5 OEMs back in 2006 represented 89% of the total production in North America, while in 2016, that'll only be 74%. So again, the point is that, and this is the slide that shows the fact that the automotive epicenter is moving south. We are ideally positioned for that. About 30% of that volume is Mexico, but the bulk of it is here in southeastern United States. We are ideally positioned for that growth. So I hope that I've convinced you, both from a Kentucky standpoint and a global standpoint, that the opportunities for ideas and innovation are great in the automotive industry. There's some really big levers across the spectrum of the automotive value chain. When we start to talk now about specific opportunities for ideas and innovation, there's some pretty big levers across the value chain. The first region is in the area of R&D and design. And so when you think about the opportunities to innovate in the R&D and design piece of the pie, there's a number of things. The first one is to build interoperable and cross-functional R&D product design database. What that means is, can we work on design projects collaboratively across the globe, across the region, because of the advance of technology, so that we can iterate designs electronically and not have to pass people or drawings back and forth. Aggregating customer data. The more we know about our customers, the better we can brand our vehicles. The more we know about the marketplace, the better we can do in terms of moving our vehicles into the segments that customers want to buy from. So again, opportunities there to innovate, to think about how do you collect that data? How do you assess what the market is demanding? This notion of collaboration, virtual collaboration sites, where you could sit in a conference room here in Kentucky and work hand in hand with designers in Detroit or designers in Shanghai or others to work on those designs collaboratively. It's a huge issue in the automotive industry, trying to forecast demand, trying to know when it is. We've got to have production capacities, design issues completed, vehicles to the market. So the opportunity to get more and more sophisticated in demand forecasting and then scheduling is important. The wheelhouse that we have here in Kentucky, the real sweet spot for the automotive business in Kentucky, is in manufacturing. You know, we really are a great manufacturing state. We have an economy that services that. We've got educational and other support systems that provide a talent pipeline for those kinds of things. And when you think about the manufacturing opportunities that we have from a technology standpoint, the idea of being able to model production systems virtually is a huge opportunity. I was engaged in a conversation yesterday with a firm right here in Bowling Green, talking to them about how we could do real-time production monitoring of our shop floor systems using advanced technology. How could we use the skills and the capabilities of that local firm to figure out how we could watch the throughput, the capacities, the constraints of our manufacturing systems and be successful. The other piece is this thing is sensor-driven data analytics. The idea of using sensors throughout the manufacturing process to understand what the manufacturing process is telling us, where are we strong, where are we weak, where is it performing adequately, where is it not, etc. And then finally, when you think about all that stuff, after we got the product in the hands of the customer, it's the after-sales feedback. How do we know How do we know the product is meeting their expectations? How do we know where did we miss a gap? How do we account for that? Those things, when we think about R&D and design, into supply chain, into the manufacturing system, and into sales and aftermarket, have a tremendous opportunity as you begin to think about opportunities in terms of technology, a tremendous opportunity to understand how we could apply and do more. Now, the real focus of what I kind of want to get in your mind here today is what are the next big things in the automotive business. Now, most of what I've talked about have really been sort of process technology or innovation, but the innovation that's occurring inside of our product is really the next three revolutions that are actually already occurring in the automotive business. And this is probably no surprise to you. But the three revolutions in the automotive business today is 1 in propulsion, 2 in connectivity, and 3 in autonomy. So as we get our minds around the opportunities to apply technology in new real-world ways that have business leverage for the automotive industry, think about propulsion. Think about the pressure on fuel economy. The federal government in the United States has mandated fuel economy standards for us to achieve by 2025 of over 50 miles per gallon per vehicle on a corporate average fuel economy. Today, that technology doesn't exist to do that. There's market forces at work and there's many other things at work, but that technology doesn't exist to do that. Right here in Kentucky, we're seeing the light weighting of vehicles take place under our eyes, the idea of going to the full aluminum F-150. And there's a huge aluminum industry developing over in the western part of the state and down here through south central Kentucky that'll service that automotive aluminum business. So as we think about light weighting vehicles, I can tell you as we launch the new Corvette, and Eric's going to talk to you a lot more about that, there was a huge amount of concern over the weight of the vehicle as we paid attention to grams, not to kilograms. I mean, it was a big deal because it all affects fuel economy. And then when you think about all the other alternative ways of propelling a vehicle, huge opportunities in technology and innovation. The connectivity. If you've been in a newer model vehicle recently, you know what I'm talking about here. We've got onboard navigation systems, onboard GPS systems. They can tell us what's happening in traffic. They can tell us what's happening for weather. They can answer our phone for us. They can send text messages. All of those kinds of technologies are developing now. They're in place in many vehicles, and we continue to figure out how to take the cost out of those, increase the performance of them, and install them across more of the automotive lineup and across the automotive landscape. And then finally, this whole notion of autonomy, and we're really at the very beginning edges of the autonomy revolution in the automotive industry. You've all heard or read about the recent news, perhaps, of the effort to send an autonomous car all the way across the country. That is, a driverless car from coast to coast in the United States. Now think about that. On the interstate highway system, now there will be a driver in the seat of the car, but he or she is instructed not to touch the wheel unless it's an emergency to avoid, but that car will drive itself across the country. So if you think about autonomous vehicles, it's an unbelievable notion to consider because of the opportunities that brings into the technology that's on board the vehicle, but certainly the technology required for the infrastructure to support those things, the roads, et cetera. There's a whole side of this thing that's a legal and policy side, but it's our role in manufacturing to think about or in automotive to think about how we do that. So those are the three big revolutions. Those are the three big opportunities for innovation. We're going to talk to you some more today about innovation in motorsports and innovation in the brand new Corvette. But the thing is that the fact is that the global landscape for the automotive companies is very, very good. Now, Europe's kind of in the dumps, but globally, you see the growth curve that I showed you. You think about it here in North America, you think about it right here in Kentucky. The opportunities to apply ideas, innovation, technology in the automotive industry are huge, and the opportunities are great. So think in those dimensions, and those are opportunities for us. So I guess we'll be back out in a little while. We're good to go. Up next. Thanks. Thank you, guys.